Chase, I wanted to share this with you guys today, but beware. Though we were only married for 2 years, my wife and I have been together for 9 years. I've reached the stage where I can't tell left from right or up from down. We are childless and in our early 30s. I will bring this up because I think it is pertinent. In the 2 years that we have been grieving, there have been 2 miscarriages. She did not cope well with the miscarriages. I gave her my complete support through them, attending to all of her needs and requests. Together, we laughed and wept. Those were challenging times. July marked the most recent one. We were advised by her doctor to stop attempting to conceive for 3 cycles in an effort to give her body time to heal and stabilize. We celebrated our first anniversary in July, and she sent me a note saying that, if the first year of marriage is the hardest, then we will be rocking in our rockers until we are 80 years old. She also said that she is the happiest she has ever been. This occurred following the second miscarriage. We had planned to retry in October, but she became more and more aloof. By the end of September, the bonding halted and she underwent a radical metamorphosis. I could feel the resentment welling up inside of her and our relationship going farther apart. She left her house at 5 in the morning to go to work. She seemed to be avoiding me, somehow. I brought this up and mentioned that we should strengthen our bond and spend time together. She continued, stating, "It feels like we are roommates." I was a little heartbroken by her statement, and I freaked out, not at her, but at myself, after discovering what that typically meant after she said it. To revive our relationship, we made the decision to go on date evenings. For several weeks, the date evenings worked well, but after that, it felt like she was just going through the motion and wasn't really there. I searched through emails and sold bills, but I couldn't find anything. She decides to drive out to the shops at the end of September to buy new outfits. I decided to remain home and make a lovely supper for the 2 of us. It was a difficult farewell when she departed, but her first words upon returning home were, "I'm not sure if I love you." I felt a flurry of emotions after reading this. Didn't even get to finish preparing dinner. To be honest, I cried and thought my heart had broken. Regardless of the response, that's what I did. I regret it a little bit now, but it's too late. I brought up marriage counseling the following day, but she flatly refused to participate. She refuses to talk to a therapist. I was so abandoned and deceived. As if nothing was wrong, later that day she asked if I wanted to go to the store and buy new sweaters. I went because I was so lost. Who wants to go shopping after saying anything like that? The next week was really awkward. I stopped saying I love you and other typical things, and I gave her some space. The woman I've known for 9 years was not the same as she was acting. She tells me she regrets what she said more than I will ever know when she and her mother traveled to see her older sister the following weekend. My anxiousness was somewhat reduced by this, but not entirely. Not even over the phone, much less in person, did she say this. She said it by text. However, texting appears to be conversation to her. When she returned, I also brought up marriage therapy again, something she declined to do. Nevertheless, I scheduled the meeting. The next week, we had a disagreement. I had our only automobile, and she was working late. She texted me while I was headed to pick her up, saying Sean would give her a lift home. Sean, who are you? The week before, while they were working on a setting, she told me about Sean and they had lunch and drinks. This did not cause me any problems at all. She didn't like it when I called to tell her I would come get her. I told her that I was already on my way and that her husband could easily provide her with a ride, so she doesn't need a coworker for that. Don't get me wrong, I've picked her up from work 100 times. Nothing similar has ever come up. She thinks that the reason I came and got her was because I don't trust her. I have never, ever had trust concerns in our relationship. She had trust concerns from the beginning, which I managed to resolve. I knew that she would go through my phone because I put it out of reach. She felt at ease knowing that I loved her and had nothing to hide. I think a portion of this has to do with her early years and her father's leaving when she was 3 years old. Although I'm not a psychotherapist, she still talks to me about that incident and hasn't forgiven it. She continues to tell me during this conversation that she believes the marriage was a mistake and that she chose to marry me since it was her lifelong dream. She added, "I haven't felt loved in 9 years. I asked her what makes her feel loved, and her simple response was, "I don't know." She always says, "I don't know," when I ask her why anything is bothering her. That night, she moved out of the bedroom, and things stayed that way for 3 weeks. The comforting remark really got to me because, yes, I am a cheapskate and have been for the most of our relationship. She has mostly driven my car, which is the only one we own, for the past 2 years. She quickly agreed when I requested for half of the mortgage payment and other household expenses. I also advised her to go buy a car, which she did. The moment she left the bedroom, everything became quite unclear. I was trying to turn around, and there was no communication at all. She would say, "What if I sat on the love sofa instead of the couch with her? You no longer wish to join me in sitting on the couch." I ignored the numerous passive-aggressive remarks she made, such as this one. Then she made the decision to inform me that she would not be joining me on our Thanksgiving trip to see my family in Florida. It did not surprise me. Originally, we were going to drive so the dogs could accompany us, but I ended up purchasing a ticket. She reconsidered her decision to go 3 times. "I'm going. I'll go instead of not." I refused to. She slept on it before she spoke the last I won't go. We went out to supper before my journey to Florida, and she inquired about my flights as I had not mentioned anything aside from her striking up talks. I told her I didn't know when I would be home and that my flight was leaving on Friday. When I declined her request to drive me to the airport, she accused me of putting myself in a difficult situation. I nearly burned out. She made her way from the space. Not me, but she said these awful things. We needed to have a heart-to-heart when I returned from Florida, so I ended up going there and asked her to think about our relationship. She consented, and when I got back, she stated she was done with this. If she meant the marriage, I inquired. Yes, she replied. She wanted to tell me she wanted a divorce as soon as she got up in the morning. I questioned her about her feelings. She reiterated that she married me for comfort and that we won't be able to work things out if we haven't in 9 years. Up until today, she has never discussed the entire matter with the previous 9 years. I told her I couldn't live like this in the same house, so she packed up and moved in with her parents. She also mentioned to me that she didn't want to work on her marriage and just wanted a child. She seemed more eager to find someone else with whom to just start a family than to work things out with me. I've lost 30 pounds due of this, so she asked if I wanted to go let her purchase me clothes before she left. My weight has returned to 165, which is a positive thing. The sole correspondence since she left on Friday was regarding minor details pertaining to the dogs. Being close to her family, I did have a conversation with her mother. We didn't know what we were doing yet, according to her mother, who told me this. I don't know what to do, and it appears like she is really unsure of what she wants. It's been 2 months since I became emotionally unstable. I stand by my promises, and I adore this woman in good times and bad. I'm not sure if she's depressed, but the counselor inquired. She seems to be everywhere at once. I don't know what to do, but I want to stay married for the rest of my life. She has refused my request to speak with a counselor or psychologist. She doesn't seem to be talking to anyone that I know of and just has one friend. She really appears unsure of herself, thus I need guidance in order to move further. Although she won't commit to working on anything, her strange statements lead me to believe that it's still ongoing. Tonight I have supper with her scheduled, but I'm not sure if I should go. Do I deny myself? Bewildered. I did some research on the other guy, and he's a divorced 41-year-old, so I could picture him being the ideal shoulder to cry on. I'm going to attempt 180. I asked for dinner tonight so that we could talk, though I'm not even sure why I invited her to come. I detest this limbo, but I also don't want to have the same conversations again. It's internally crushing me. I'm not sure I want to go or want to go. Several weeks later, I checked the cell records today and a new number appeared. Calls at 4 in the morning, and she even called right away following our heart-to-heart last week. I used a reverse lookup and discovered that the coworker I had been suspicious about all along is a man. He was divorced and 10 years her senior. I kind of suspected this, which is why I'm furious. I want to change the locks, pack her stuff, and tear down every wedding photo. I'd like to approach her about this, but I'm not sure if I have enough proof. She won't go to MC, so I've been going by myself. I want to bring this up at MC on Saturday. Although I've been attempting NC, I want to break it off and face her. Is it now time for me to want her back? To be honest, no. I have never stated it before. Wow. Do feel like you've been used thoroughly now. I can't get into the automobile since she moved in with her folks and took the backup key. I'm not sure if I can legally alter the ducking locks on the door, though. Her family believes she is this angle, which is why I truly want to reveal this. I'm not sure if she wants to leave or not because she's so ambiguous. However, at this point, I do feel like Plan B, and it's driving me crazy. I might as well get in touch to have a comfortable conversation about the phone calls if I'm going to file. I know that interacting with this kind of individual will not produce the truth, but I still deserve the respect of the truth. Last night, I had a visit with her. She asked if she could come over and order a pizza and wanted to view the pets. I wanted to see what she would say, so I said okay. I mentioned the calls and texts after spending some time doing so. I was curious to observe her response for myself. She responded, "Is there anything inappropriate going on with Om?" When I inquired directly, "Obviously, he's only a friend. I don't call my friends at odd times like 4 in the morning," I said. She became really defensive. I directly asked her if she was discussing our marriage and me with him. She acknowledged that's precisely what she's doing. I lost it over her. Over the past 3 months, I've repeatedly bit my lip out of fear of saying the wrong thing, upsetting her, and losing whatever hope I still had. She does these things that make me feel confused, similar to asking me whether I hate her after dropping the divorce, or what's not right. "You detest me now," she even wrote in a message she left when I wasn't home. At random, she texts me to say hello. I'm so frustrated by all of these things since they're so confused. A few weeks later, I filed. I felt guilty about it, but I also thought it was my only choice. She contacted me to talk about the divorce 2 days later. Last week, papers arrived late for her. Initially, the purpose of the sit-down was to talk about everything in detail, but it quickly became emotional and we began discussing the relationship. I'm not even sure how that came about. Most likely, I started it as soon as we spoke. She was in tears. They appeared to be real tears. I made an effort to remain composed. When we got to talking about the specifics of the divorce, she revealed to me that I had filed for it less than 2 weeks after she moved out, more like a month. She seems agitated over that. I was sick to my stomach the day I learned she had been served. I was furious that this had occurred. I informed her that I had no other option and that this has been happening since September. Despite my repeated attempts, she refused to go to MC. She claimed that since she walked out, my behavior hasn't demonstrated to her that I desire to work on anything. She stated that I haven't texted and that the last time we saw each other, I seemed upset. You have a funny way of expressing it. The last time I saw her, I was furious. I reminded her of the things she had said to me, even though she had dropped the hint. For what reason would I text? I stayed put. What about her outright rejection of MC during the previous 3 months? She expressed her belief that I had no desire to work on anything. I don't get this at all. Am I losing my mind? Was she absent for the entire 3 months? How can you clarify it further than when I set up the meeting with the MC? Are you coming? She informed me that the instant she removed her ring, her mother showed her the email I had sent regarding the other man. She claimed that it infuriated her greatly. She stated it's her life and none of my concern when I inquired what it was all about with other man, my texts at 4 a.m. and late at night. She said, that's just the way it is when I get something stuck in my head. This is untrue. What more must I believe? Why even bother with me? I mentioned to her again that I had an application tomorrow morning, and she said, I'm not sure how to respond to that. I have no idea why I even attempted. I harbor a sliver of hope, I suppose. What makes me return for more? How come I can't settle for 1 second? One moment I'm sure of my choice, and the next I'm doubting it. It's an insane mindset to have. It breaks me on the inside a little when I see her weep. Other than giving her the D she has repeatedly requested, I'm not sure what I've done so far that would make her weep. Am I acting insensitively here? First of all, 2 months later, my emotional state has changed from what it was at the conclusion of Dex. I still get incredibly depressed and cry uncontrollably at times. Even though I feel like I'm becoming stronger now, which is encouraging, I still struggle and it seems like there will never be an end. If I'm being completely honest, though, I still had optimism, which is absurd. I have been trying very hard to move things along since the end of December, getting an appraisal to see how submerged the house is, etc. You know she played it exactly as written, don't you? The appraisal took place on my birthday in early January. After the assessment, she came over and asked if she could take me out to dinner on my birthday. I replied courteously, I have plans, which I actually did. I have been trying very hard to move things along since the end of December, getting an appraisal to see how submerged the house is, etc. You do realize that she adhered to this ridiculous script. The appraisal took place on my birthday in early January. After the assessment, she came over and asked if she could take me out to dinner on my birthday. I replied courteously, I have plans, which I actually did. I replied when she texted me later to ask if we could talk. Foolish. She appears an hour later, sitting on the couch with tears in her eyes, and says, I'm not prepared to abandon this. She's been so cold for months, so I was a little surprised. I advised her to schedule an appointment and let me know the location and time if she wanted to visit MC. In fact, I would want closure. She tells me she informed him they can't be friends after I bring up her pal. They were merely buddies, she insists. I ignored it, thinking the debate wasn't worth it, but I noticed how her expression went from sobbing to becoming irate. When was brought up, there was a very telling agitation. She consented to visit IC and then schedule a meeting with MC. I'm not sure if this has actually happened. Over the past few weeks, we did get together a few times. It was amazing how much she wanted to forget about the previous 3 months. How is that possible for someone? How someone can compartmentalize that well is beyond me. Her desire was to vacuum the carpet. When she asked if I would go meet the baby and have supper at her sister's house last week, it all came to a head. Something that we used to do on a daily basis. It's stupid, yet I said yes. I've always said that I knew he had contacted her the day before and didn't want to doubt anything. I snatched her phone, went in the car, and looked. Not a text. I strive to keep my text inbox clean, unlike yours, which has texts from everyone who has ever sent one. When people question why this is what I received. No way, Sherlock. You can't be any more organized with an iPhone, and I have no need to erase them. I was curious about her New Year's activities. All I wanted to know was, she was in a motel in a different state with him for New Year's. She told me that we had a cheek kiss. With her, I'd lost it. She's been having sex with this guy, I know that. I understand, so kindly inform me of my blindness. I understand that. It was nice to let it all out on her. And negative. Still, I had a lot to say. I told her again everything she had said to me and the decisions she had made. I let out everything that I bit my lip on. That was something I had to do. I've since gone dark once more. Ever since I began pursuing these, she has headlong declared her love for me. Ridiculous. Where was that on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's? You haven't done a single thing you said you were going to do. You act angry when we talk about and won't even acknowledge the things you've done. Who knows how far back you went? Told me she didn't want to give up, and you know damn freaking well that you did. She also told me she never said things like, married you out of comfort. That is beyond me. How can she deny it? She is no longer there. In my opinion, the opus made a good first step toward respecting himself and his emotions. Proceed. Story 2. After work, I got home to find that Thing W was in the mood for a quick chat. This is when my panic started to creep in. She claims a number of factors, including our lengthy relationship and the length of time I work, for why she wants a D and is leaving me. Please take note that I just took this action to keep us afloat. In addition, I am domineering, I don't prioritize her, and, the worst part, I am no longer what she wants. At this point, my ear began to ring. The most terrifying aspect of this was how composed and at ease W seemed. It was organized. Other people knew that she had packed. No other man, she insists, and I kind of believe her. We intended to pursue parenthood. When it came to manliness, I did not look my best. It used to be loud and intense when we argued and fought. I'm terrified that this wasn't the case and that I sensed it was coming but couldn't figure out how to tell her. I'm not a very emotional person, so this overwhelming numbness mixed with intense emotional outbursts that nearly brought me to tears is so foreign to me that I worry I'll never be able to get past it. I pleaded with us to do something, even with MC, but the commas said no. I know that sounds weak, but she is my best friend and I have no other friends who even come close to being as close as she is. Friends and family are not local, and I'm not even sure if I can trust them. We've been really aloof lately, and everything I did was treated with disdain as if I ought to have known better than to say anything. Now that it's the following day, after spending 18 hours trembling, screaming, crying, and staring into space, I am really starting to embrace the numbness since it prevents me from thinking about anything. I've texted people pleading with me, and they have responded with cool, collected refusals. I get upset when drawers and cabinets are empty. I'm not sure if I should call and ask for help. But what good would it do if she doesn't want me? I wish I had the opportunity to take action against this last year. I feel horrible if I don't cry for an hour or so right now because I worry that I won't cope with this or go ahead and take action. My standard man setting is either black or white, fixed or broken, and if broken, correct it. However, I'm not sure how to make it work. I did discover it, but I reasoned that if I just gave everything I had in an attempt to get her back, I wouldn't feel guilty if it succeeded. A tiny part of me is realizing now that after posting that phrase above that I have no idea who I am by myself. I came to the realization that something we did 2 years ago had a name after reviewing a few things. She insisted that her E was not a P, though I hid the information, hoping we could work things out. I did find evidence that this was a lie, and for a while we did. I've been such a fool, man. I've been W's only provider for a long time, so I've had a lot of pressure to bring in enough money for both W's education and our daily needs. I guess it's the silver lining, lol. This might have been influenced by W's recent discovery of independence via employment. Not at all dependent on him financially. She never gave me more information about the ON than just her name. And I didn't behave as though I was ready to give up and bury it. As an update, the pets were starting to run low on supplies, so I was obliged to get dressed and dash to the store. Walked back in, having hurried to make sure we were there. There must be a confidence issue with Surreal wandering around and not being able to look people in the eye. I'm beginning to feel a little anxious about tomorrow's task. I could try working from home, but I have important clients to see on Tuesday, so I need to be confident and focused. I'm exhausted from running to the store, so how will the entire day go? Right now, I assume the first one will be the most difficult of all. When something happens to them, do people report it to their supervisors or line managers? People under my supervision have approached me to let me know when they've broken up, etc., so I can offer them support. But I'm not sure. I'm also a little afraid that W could show up at the house when I'm at work and I won't get to see her. Though I'm not sure what I would say. Tonight is going to be a really hard night for me. I didn't really get it when earlier posts warned me there was more hurt to come, but I'm starting to. Even though I don't use Facebook much anymore, I saw that she had disappeared from it. I believe she unfriended her husband, which really made me want to cry. I attempted to set up a meeting for tomorrow night or earlier, simply to try and discuss when I was a bit less shocked. She promised to meet me at least over the weekend, but she was busy this weekend and would get back to me on Tuesday. Instead, she stated she would meet me next week. It will hurt worse to be alone and alone for 5 days. It's driving me crazy, but I can't get the picture of her for the weekend with an arm out of my head. An added bonus is that I am expecting word on an IC appointment for the middle of next week. This sinking sensation in my stomach is becoming unbearable. Here's the update as of Friday, a week after everything happened. Today's work was challenging, and my composure was beginning to waver. Even though I tried to manufacture a smile, it was difficult to carry on a bit longer talk. I confided in a trusted coworker today, and they were understanding and stated they had a sneaking suspicion of what I was about to say before I ever told them. This may have given some indication of the circumstances before last week. After work, I went to see a friend and overheard them talking. Then, I went to a hardware store to get ladders. Purchasing it seemed like a male thing, at least. I've started to worry a little bit that I'm just able to express fear. I have therefore abstained from coffee, drink, food, and, shockingly, music for the past week. We used to constantly listen to music, in the house, in the car, on headphones, etc. I believe I gave it up completely because I connected it with happiness and I was unable to tolerate any music. However, I only listened to one song on the way home tonight. Something bizarre happened during the Coldplay cover. Like I hadn't stopped crying since she left, I was unable to stop crying. The fact that I could still feel that way later made me feel a little comforted. It felt more like 7 years than 7 days this week. Update: I've been here exactly 1 month now, and wow, it was strange earlier. I was sitting there, dumbfounded, watching TV when a love scene started. I was limited to crying and not moving. It took a while, but I'm kind of happy that I was able to express some of these feelings. I can tell that I've improved a little bit during the past 2 weeks, if not more than before everything happened. However, this is quite difficult. I said, let her try it and see if she will miss you. She will soon discover that the world is a lonely and frigid place. Preserve some hurt and letdown for yourself. Perhaps it's a better life without her. It's time to give yourself some alone time. Story 3. Firstly, I would want to say that I have been forced to stare in the mirror at myself quite a bit due to my current position with my wife. Since I began personal counseling, I've been able to see that I've been struggling with anxiety and depression for a long time without really knowing what it was. My spouse struggles with anxiety and possibly depression as well. This will assist readers understand my thoughts when they read the remaining material. My love for my wife is beyond words. Anything, for her. We've always aged together, in my opinion. I recently got married to my wife last summer. We've spent more than 9 years together. No children. While I work days, she works graveyards. A few months back, I became acutely aware of her. At least struck me as abrupt. Being extremely separated. Essentially ignoring me, if I may say so. Of course, this caught me off guard. I attempted to discuss it with her at first. When I asked her if something was wrong, she replied that she wasn't attempting to be aloof or anything similar. I decided to let it go. Really, not much changed. She no longer desired to grasp my hand. I had to start giving hugs. The kisses were short. Ever since this began, we have not shared any intimacy. It was the kind of small thing that she used to treasure. I've spoken to her a few more times, telling her how much I adore her and how much I believe our communication needs to improve. This has truly made me aware of the fact that I've never been excellent at expressing my feelings and affection for her. She went so far as to say in these conversations that I hardly ever initiated intimacy or bonding, which severely hurt her self-esteem. I feel foolish. I've always wanted to be the one to make the first move toward romance and show her affection. However, that's where my anxiety is being discovered. Depression has been a major obstacle for me. I used to have an unreasonable fear of being rejected, so even if I would consider showing her affection, I would often refrain from doing so. I'm spending a lot of time working on this with my counselor and doctor. She acknowledges that she understands when I try to explain things to her. She is, however, merely indifferent to everything. As if she's indifferent. Her parents, who genuinely adore me, and I had a conversation. They also reassured me that she is focused on me and believes my recent neediness is just a coincidence. This is a combination of my overcompensation and my sincere attempt to reveal who I truly am. I've discovered that discussing my feelings with others greatly reduces my worry. I used to hold everything inside. I believe that I began showering her with presents and affection, which truly started to stress her out. She has informed me that the serious conversations simply exacerbate her nervousness. Anyway, a few weeks ago, before she left for work, we got into a heated disagreement about her constant texting and Facebook use because this is another issue. She has been quite active. The day before, I asked her directly if she was having an affair, and she answered categorically in the negative. My spouse is not good at lying, so even though she hardly ever does, I've gotten very good at reading her and have been able to tell when she does. I have to trust her since when I asked her, she didn't even hesitate to tell me she wasn't having an affair. The following day, after our explosive confrontation, she stormed out the door to go to work. As we were texting one another at the time, we both felt like horrible individuals. When she returned home the following day, we spoke, and she announced that she was going to stay with a buddy from work. For a few days, it's a girl pal. I told her to do it if that's what she needed. She claimed that her head was a muddled mess, and I didn't want that. She concurred that our relationship needs improvement. Well, 3 weeks have passed and she has still not returned home. About a week ago, she revealed to me that she wasn't sure she was in love with me, even though she claimed to love me. She claimed to be on the verge of a nervous breakdown. She told me that because I wasn't providing her with the necessary attention, she had to learn how to be more independent. Since I am aware of how awful I have been at this makes a lot of sense to me. She even raised the possibility that it was a hormonal issue. My wife stated that at this time, she did not want anything changed, as if she's against getting a divorce. I informed her that we should start attending marital therapy. Her folks also informed her of this. She promised to go. However, she is content where she is at the moment and wants to stay. She claimed that she had reached the point where she looked forward to seeing me at home because she knew that I would seriously question her about our relationship and that her anxiety would skyrocket. In a few days, we have our first counseling session. Our main method of communication is texting. She calls me every few days as I want her to. Despite how difficult it is, I've really tried to back off and give her some space since I feel like she's slipping away from me. I'm making a lot of effort to improve myself. My ability to express my feelings has greatly improved, but showing her seems very suffocating. I thus speak with friends and relatives frequently. The last time I spoke with her parents, they informed me that my wife had just had a conversation with them and had essentially told them the same things. They appear to believe that we can resolve this. She said yes when they asked if she wanted to keep the marriage together. I'm not sure how to read that, if there's anything left to keep. I've been told by her parents that there isn't an affair going on. Her sister tells me that she believes my wife and I were meant to be together and that she is aware of how much my wife loves me. Perhaps there are only differences between men and women. However, I fail to see how someone can love you without falling in love with you. I believe that a man can either love someone or not. Love has a waxing and waning effect all the time. There are moments when I don't feel as in love, but I don't even doubt it since I know I adore her. Nevertheless, I've learned from reading posts on this site and others that I need to concentrate on improving myself, which I am. I'm giving her some space because I feel like I should. I'm not sure how much interaction is appropriate between us. I'm a truly nice man. Apart from not being kind and expressing my feelings, I've never mistreated her. I'm having a really hard time right now. It was probably the hardest period of my life. Although a lot of this makes logic to me, I'm still baffled. It looks like something that can be fixed. Given that we were married less than a year ago, I find it incomprehensible that this is happening now. However, I can see the numbers she messages on our phone bill. I spotted a number, and that's what actually started our explosive disagreement. She was messaging a guy she works with on a frequent basis. She seemed to erase all of her texts to everyone when I took her phone from her while she was asleep. From that hash, a few were still there, and they didn't seem too awful. This was the only time I checked the phone bill. I've stopped looking since I know it would only make me anxious and I can't see what she's texting me anyhow. I do worry that my wife may not even be aware of an emotional affair taking place. I'm fairly certain that nothing tangible is occurring. Later on, my wife informed me that although she shouldn't have been messaging that person so frequently, it bothered her that it appeared as though I was watching her. She claimed to be concerned that I might look through her journal, even though I don't. Simply said, I wouldn't do that. I am aware that our relationship has underlying problems and that she wasn't receiving the necessary reassurances from me, even with the emotional affair included. That isn't the main issue, in my opinion. I need to be able to work with her on what caused it in our relationship. Before my wife physically cheated on me, I think she would have filed for divorce. She is a terribly wrong person in every way. I decided not to tell anyone about it as I knew that would lead to everyone assuming there had been an affair. Though, as I fully admit, that is a possibility, especially the sentimental affair. In my opinion, that is more of a symptom than the actual issue. Her affair is not what I need guidance on. Even if I find it bothersome, texting someone does not equal having an affair. I believe it would be better for me to focus on improving both our relationship and myself, irrespective of the existence of an affair. She is hiding any affair from everyone, but soon it will consume her from the inside out and come back to haunt her. She would likely be aware of that as well. She would tell me eventually. She is a very right or wrong person, as I've already stated. Therefore, I genuinely don't think a physical affair would occur before she merely asked for a divorce. Whatever might occur. One more piece of information. I should have probably noted that, even prior to the distance, I am aware of her high level of stress. Over the past year, a lot of things have happened to us. Our dog passed away last year, we got married, and she started her career. Before we met, he was her dog, and she was incredibly devoted to him. In addition, 2 years ago, she came dangerously near to losing her grandmother. That, along with all of my anxiety and depression problems, well, you get the idea. I do think there are a number of factors involved in this. Having discovered a great deal of the problems, all I need to do now is figure out how to convince her to proceed with me. I'm seeking for a fresh and better relationship with her, not our previous one. I can't even get her to interact at the moment because she's just erected this wall around herself. I sincerely hope that the marital therapy would facilitate communication and provide some resources to reignite the passion. My comment, neither of you is well at this moment. A relationship cannot be committed to when one or both of you are mentally unstable. Just a few quick and adorable tales for you all.